Hi, everybody. I'm Alice K. Rucklehouse from SufferingWell, and I had said that I would continue to share about autism while we have the How Initiative. And I'm sorry I haven't been doing that very much because I've just been like crazy, crazy busy. I've got some major stressors right now. And so that's affecting my autism among other things, and it's just been really hard. But anyway, I wanted to share something with you that kind of happened tonight. It's been happening for a little bit, but it really, really happened tonight, and how I'm dealing with that, how it affects me, and stuff. And I want to first share why I think this is valuable for me to share with you. Um, First of all, just because if you don't have autism, this can kind of help you to be compassionate towards people who do if you understand what's happening. You may see this happening with somebody and not know that they have autism, or they might not even know that they have autism, especially if it's a woman, because a lot of women are being late diagnosed autistic right now because they're finally figuring out that women aren't the same as men. There's a book, I think it's called Women Are Not Just Small Men or something like that. It's a book that's been around for probably 20 years or so. And that's kind of how I feel about this. It's like, oh, well, these girls don't like trains, so they must not be autistic. You know, it's like girls and women manifest autism in a very, very different way. Like women autistics are very concerned about relationships where male autistics usually aren't. And of course those are generalizations. Not every autistic person is the same. But anyway, so I kind of wanted to point this out to you so you could be compassionate towards somebody who you might see having this problem. And even if they don't know that they're autistic, be compassionate with them. They might be, or there may be something else going on too. And then the other thing is so that um, those of you who are watching this who have autism, maybe we can help each other with this. I don't know really the solutions or how I should handle this thing that's happening to me. And maybe some of you have some suggestions, or maybe you can learn from what I've done so far, which is kind of helping. So anyway, so this is the thing. Um, I think I told you all that when I was a kid, uh, my mom liked to she liked to really clean the house. And when she would do it, I think it was about once a month or so, she would move all the furniture around, at least in one room. I'm not sure, but it seems like it was through the whole house, but I could be wrong about that. And I would come home from school and everything would be in different places. And I would just go into my room and cry and cry and cry and cry. And I'm so, so grateful to my mom for not like getting mad at me or punishing me or anything like that. I mean, because she didn't know why I was doing that. So she could have just said, "Hey, grow up, what's wrong with you?" or something, but she didn't. And she did get to where she would leave my piano in the same place, or she might move it and then move it back, and I could tell it had been moved. So that would upset me. So what seems like tantrums a lot of times might just be a meltdown, which is completely different. A tantrum is something that somebody throws in order to manipulate. A meltdown is something that happens because a person just can't handle, they can't grasp, they can't get a grip on themselves anymore because of everything that's happening on. Your brain is overloaded. I have described a number of times um, feeling like every appliance in my neighborhood is hooked into an extension cord coming from my house. That's what it feels like to be in a meltdown. It's just like it's way too much. Your house couldn't handle that. It would, I don't know what would happen. I don't know if it would turn off the electricity or if it would explode or catch on fire or what, but it wouldn't be good. And that's what it feels like when you're going through something like that. And that's how I'm starting to feel right now. Not quite like my whole neighborhood, but like at least half the neighborhood has their stuff plugged into my brain, and I can't handle it. I just can't handle it. So okay, so to kind of put this in autistic perspective, to give you another example, a couple of years ago, my priest, who normally would walk over to the ambo, which is kind of like a lectern, um, to give his homily, he just stood up where he had been sitting and he gave it from there. Okay. that shouldn't be a big deal. I know in my head that's not a big deal, but I cried for 2 weeks. I'm not kidding. I cried for 2 weeks. It was just like heartbreaking to me. And it wasn't that I thought there was something wrong with it or that he shouldn't have done it. It was just change. Change is very, very difficult for most autistic people. It's very difficult for me. And so anyway, so here's what's going on. So starting with Advent back in December, some things were changed in our church. Um, and, they probably aren't big deals to most people. But for me, that was really, really hard. But I kind of dealt with it because it happened at Advent, which is kind of a change time anyway. And I just thought, oh, these are just for Advent. But they've continued. And then there were a whole bunch of changes tonight. And it was like, oh my gosh, it was just way too much for me. And I was just like scared that I might have a meltdown there in church, in Mass. And I sit up like close to the front. So I couldn't just escape or anything. I didn't want to escape. I wanted to receive communion. That's why I'm there. And it just, it was really bad. I did cry through the whole thing, but I don't think anybody knew that I was crying. Um, I wasn't like sobbing or making any noise or anything. And like I said, I sit up at the front so everybody sees my back. So I don't think anybody knew that I was crying. But it was just like too much for me. And here's the thing, you guys, is that I don't expect everybody else to be careful of me. And I think that that's appropriate not to expect that. I think people who have severe autism, yeah. Um, but for me personally, and I'm not going to speak for anybody else, even with like the level of autism that I have, if somebody else has that same level, I'm not speaking for them. I'm just speaking for myself. I don't think that everybody else should have to tiptoe on eggshells because of me. I don't want them to. I don't want because people start resenting that kind of thing and everything. Um, and because they've got their own lives to live, and the people who made the decision, and I don't know who that is, whoever made the decision to do these things, to change the way that we did certain things in the Mass, to change stuff around in the environment of where the Mass was and everything. They probably had a good reason for it. And, maybe 99% of the people wanted that change, but it's just even when it's a good change, even if I like the change and I go, oh yeah, that's really cool. Even then it's very, very stressful for me. Um, and there's just something in me that can't handle that. It's just like takes your breath away, makes you feel like you're going to throw up. So anyway, yeah, so I cried throughout the whole Mass. I tried not to, but I couldn't help it. I'm crying and I'm just like praying, God, please don't let me have a meltdown. Don't let me have a meltdown. Don't let me start crying really hard or anything like that. And God got me through it. And I got out to my car and I cried more out there. Um, because everybody was going to this event that they were having that I can't go to because it's in the Family Life Center, which is like a gym. So like all those sounds, those squeaky shoes and all that stuff. I can't deal with stuff in there. Um, so I was out in my truck and I didn't have to worry about people around me seeing me cry or anything. Um, and then I got home and I'm by myself. It's just me and my dog. So I was able to scream, not like a tantrum type of screaming, but just like, ah, and just kind of let it out. That actually really helped. And I realized not everybody can do that. But that helped some. I'm still a little freaked out. I'm not crying. So I think I'm doing a little bit better. And I don't know if, okay, yeah, this is all that I'm going to respond to it, or if more is going to come. I don't know. And I shouldn't laugh because it's like really scary. I am kind of terrified that I'm going to have a meltdown because I'm under a lot of other stressors right now. And so it's just, yeah. Um, but I'm trying to deal with it. And so I wanted you all to kind of see, I mean, you're not really seeing how bad it is, but I mean, you probably can tell I'm starting to cry. Um, but just to let you see kind of what it's like, or at least hear what it's like, because I think I'm masking a lot of it right now. Um, but just to know what it's like so that if you see somebody who's responding in a way that seems unreasonable or something, just stop and think for a minute. They may be autistic or they may have another reason. Not all autistics tell people that they're autistic, because there is kind of a stigma to it still. Um, so the other thing, and this is something I want to offer for those of you who are autistic and experience things like this, I look at this as my thorn in the flesh. Um, and St. Paul talks about that. He talks about how there was something that he had that was wrong. And he asked God to heal him 3 times. And God said, "No, my grace is sufficient for you. My strength is made perfect in your weakness." I think that's second Corinthians 10. No, 2 Corinthians 12, I think. I'll put it in the description box below. I'm not sure. um, but I think that those of us who are autistic, we have gifts. Everybody has gifts. But some of us have gifts because of our autism. And sometimes it takes a while to find out what those are. But I call those our superpowers. And really, I believe everybody has a superpower, everybody in the whole world. But autistics, have different superpowers. And so we need the thorn in the flesh. We need that. And we need to learn to allow God to be strong in our weakness. I'm not exactly sure how to do that, practically speaking, but hopefully I'll learn. If you have any pointers, put those below. And the other thing is, just the whole thing with suffering well, offering up our suffering, and you know, I'm I just found out today that I'm not even middle class. I'm way down in the poverty level. I don't think of myself that way, and I'm able to pay my bills and stuff. But so don't feel sorry for me. But I feel rich because I have suffering that I can offer up. I'm not able to give people things that cost stuff, but I can offer my suffering. And Mother Mary can use that. Jesus can use that to help others. And that's just, to me, that's just really, I feel like I'm super wealthy because of that. So, okay, so I hope that this has been encouraging to some of you, informative to others, and maybe helpful to me if you have ideas that you put down in the comments, because honestly, I would really appreciate knowing, like how you or somebody deals with stuff like this so that they don't end up going off the edge of the cliff. All right. I love you all. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.